Thank you very much, Anne, for that kind introduction, and thank you for your role this morning. I also want to obviously thank all the organizers and the two sponsoring organizations, the Canadian Urban Institute and Toronto Workforce Innovation Group, for gathering together the community leaders and the business leaders from Toronto that I see in front of me here this morning, and thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Mayor Miller, for being here and for, I think, sharing some a good overview, but also some individual examples, because sometimes in the statistics and the discussions you forget about the individuals and the wonderful good news stories that are out there. I'm a little different than Mayor Miller. This is actually my first official event of the day. In fact, I was trying to think what I was doing at 7 o'clock this morning. I think I was in my pajamas eating breakfast, switching between an old episode of Murder, She Wrote in the W Network and CNN's coverage of President Obama's speech last night. So, but I managed to shower and get here on time. But, now, as Anne mentioned in her introduction, one of my roles as Minister of Training in Colleges and Universities is to deal with the whole issue of employment. And in fact, I'm someone who's never been hung up on titles except when people actually introduce me as Minister of Colleges and Universities, because I think sometimes people think training is just sort of thrown in there as an aside. In fact, training is one of the most important things that the ministry does, and does, of course, as part of the government team. Many of you may know in 2007, the federal government, the lion's share, I'd say about 90% of federal government programming in terms of employment supports was transferred to the province. So combined with provincial supports, the Ministry of Training Colleges and Universities is really the main ministry here in the province of Ontario, federal or provincial, that deals with the issue of those who are searching for a job, whether they're from a layoff situation or entering the workforce for the first time. And I've got to tell you, in that role, in my role as minister, one of the greatest frustrations I have is the fact that right now, as we're all aware, we're in a time of very high unemployment. We hear every day stories of layoffs of individuals who are pounding the streets for weeks and months and even years looking for a job. And at the same time, we're also aware of huge labor shortages that are out there. I've told the story before in public speeches of literally picking up the paper one day. I think it was the Globe and Mail. And on page A1 was a story of a major layoff. I think it was in the auto sector, of about 1,000 people. And on page A3, there was a major story about a new study that had come out talking about prospective shortages in one area of the economy. I think literally, again, in the thousands. And of course, all that strikes you, and of course strikes anyone who looks at this, is how can we connect the two? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could make sure that the workforce, both those that represent the laid off, the unemployed, as well as those entering the workforce, were trained in those areas where there are shortages? I think all of us know that's a wonderful proposition. It's one that we all have to work on, but it's much easier said than done. It's very, very complicated to pull that through, and that, of course, is the point of the meeting this morning, and that, in many ways, is the point of the Ministry of Training Colleges and Universities. First of all, in terms of it being complicated, no one sector can do it alone. Government can't do it alone. We need the partners, the types of partners we have in the room, and I certainly want to congratulate all those who are involved in the training and education field who are here today. I know we have representatives of colleges, of private career colleges, of universities. We have the union sector, which does such a great job in terms of training apprentices. And of course, we have employers here in the room who reach out and make sure that those entering the workforce are given that training that they need to fulfill these new positions. Our government is doing what it can to be a very effective partner in this. And I think everyone's aware of our Premier's personal commitment and our government's commitment to education and training. This period right now, these few weeks, marks the 5th anniversary of Reaching Higher, which was introduced in 2005, one of the largest investments in post-secondary education and training in 20 years plus, in 2 generations. And I've been on a bit of a Reaching Higher success tour across the province to remind people of the great strides we have made over the past 5 years. We have 100,000 more people in our colleges and universities than we did when we took office. We've invested billions in student assistance and boosted operating funding at our colleges and universities so that they can deliver not only in terms of absorbing more students, but in making sure that they're getting a quality education. We've also, and I've referenced them a few times, invested in union employer and employer training centers because they do such a crucial role in terms of training apprentices, and I think everyone's aware that that's an area where there's a huge potential shortage looming on the horizon, the whole construction trades and skilled trades sector. In terms of the training agenda and laid off workers, I've been very, very proud of the strides we've made in the second career program that I'm sure many in this room are aware of. One of the gaps that we discovered, I'd say early on in this mandate, before the collapse on Wall Street, but when you started to see the real downturn in the manufacturing sector, is that there weren't opportunities for laid-off individuals to pursue long-term training. Our philosophy always was, if you want training, it's the shortest route back into the workforce. And there's nothing wrong with that philosophy, but the fact is that in this climate, often that means you get laid off from a job, you undertake some short-term training, and then you head right back into what for all intents and purposes, is a survival job, which you might in fact get laid off down the line. So we started to offer a program of long-term training. Those who have been around start to chuckle a bit because at the beginning no one came forward, and in fact, well, the only people who came forward were the opposition to call for my resignation because they said what a flop it was. But it picked up steam, and it picked up steam so fast that I don't think any observer realized the demand that was out there and the opportunity that existed and the desire that existed amongst laid-off workers. We wanted to see about 20,000 people over 3 years go into the program, and as of last September, about 15, 16 months into the program, we hit that 20,000. And as a government, we had a very, very tough decision to make. Do we declare victory and go home, or do we extend the program? And I've got to credit the Premier and the Minister of Finance. They came forward and said, no, we've got to keep this going. So we developed a bit more streamlined program, one that focused very much on those in need, because we simply don't have an infinite source of money, and we found enough funds to welcome about 8,000 more people into the program this fiscal year. So right now we're around 22,000, 24,000. Of course, some of these are, when I say that range, some of the applications are still being finalized, and I think we're going to be hitting that 28,000 in the next little while. And again, this is not only long-term training, but long-term training that is focused on those areas of need in the economy. And we ask applicants to demonstrate that the area they're looking at is one where there is a shortage and where there is hiring going on, and then to designate a course either in a community college or a private career college. So we've been delighted with the take-up on this, and I think it's going a long way to helping those that have been laid off. Is there more to do? Of course there's more to do, and that's the point of today's session, to talk about how we can come together, the partners, to find other ways to move forward. I'll share one example, one area where obviously there's a great deal of possibility, and that's the whole green energy field. I think everyone's aware we've been putting a great emphasis on green energy. The Green Energy Act came through very much adding incentives and ways to develop a whole new manufacturing area here in the province of Ontario, not just for our needs, but looking to the market to the south to go there. People are aware of the Samsung deal, which will provide about 16,000 new green energy jobs, as well as energy for about 580,000 households. We have our eye on that sector, and I've been pleased, and again, I'm holding this up as a bit of a case study of some of the partnerships we've developed to make sure that people have those skills for those new jobs. And that, of course, brings me to the work that you're going to be doing today. I often say that one of the great state secrets is all wisdom does not reside at Queen's Park. I'll share that with everyone here today. And we really do look to community partners in the business community for more ideas and direction and your input on how we can make sure that the workforce is being trained for the jobs that are needed. We have our challenges. As I say, government can't do anything alone. At the same time, the partners here in the room can't individually do as much. We all have to work together. We realize there are financial constraints on every level of government, but at the same time, I always like to reiterate our Premier and our government's commitment to education and training, which is going to continue, and no matter what the hard choices, we're going to be there to work with everyone in the room to make sure that we can move forward on this very, very important agenda. So we look forward to hearing of your work today. I know there are representatives here from training colleges and universities in other parts of the Government of Ontario. We want to be partners. We want to make sure that the jobs are there for, well, we know the jobs are there for people moving forward, but that people have the skills and the education to take them up. So once again, thank you for all your work. Thank you for giving of your time today, and we look forward to this continuing partnership.